There are two warring ideas in our culture about how you should pursue happiness. And one is that anything that happens to you, you have to make it happen. And the other opposite idea is that there's something unspiritual about that level of certainty, and that what you really should do is just kind of go with the flow. Now, I'm here to tell you that if you're doing either of those things, you just might be playing small. This is the second in my Playing Small series. I'm glad you're back here to watch it. If you missed the first one, you can watch it later. It's okay to watch them out of order. But I'm going to tell you why neither of these options of forcing things or just going with the flow is a better way to do this. Getting out of playing small means expanding your life to a bigger, happier, more delightful experience than either of those approaches can bring you. If you are liking this series, and if you like it so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button. This is like the deal. I'm doing a series for you. I'm asking you, if you're not subscribed yet, come on, hit that button. What have you got to lose? Help me get to 1 million. So playing small, it's not asking people to hit your subscribe button, I'll tell you that. Playing small, it's a protective measure. It's usually unconscious, where we avoid speaking up for ourselves, we don't take risks, we don't reach for what we really want in our lives. And we're hoping that by just kind of, going along, not asking for anything, that we can stay safe from criticism and failure. And, you can, right? This is a common behavior for people who were abused and neglected as kids. And maybe that's you. It's definitely what happened to me. But is it really what we want, to avoid all criticism and avoid all failure? This is why I was stuck for a lot of my life playing small. I wasn't taught things. I didn't know how to act with other people. There was all this free-floating shame all around me. And my family was poor, so it was easy to feel invisible and left out. And as you can imagine, I failed at a lot of things that I tried. I mean, everybody does, right? But often I just didn't even try. I didn't know what was going on. I felt like people seemed to know some system of how to get ahead or how to get an education. Well, what clubs should you be in at school? I just didn't know. I didn't have any guidance. And I definitely didn't know how to get a good job or a good relationship. So it literally was like I never got the memo. And it was in my early adulthood, I just kind of did what people were supposed to do as far as I understood it, or I tried to, but I literally didn't know how to apply for college. I hadn't heard of the SAT. I left home when I was 17, right? I got this little apartment. I worked cleaning houses. I went to a community college to take random classes because when I went to the university, I had great grades. I graduated a year early. I was a bright kid. But I went over to the university admission office and I was like, I'm ready to start. It's August, let's go. And they said, well, did you apply? And I was like, no, what is that? Literally, I didn't know. And they said, well, you have to fill out this paperwork and you have to take the SAT. I think people don't take that anymore, but it was like such a standard thing. I literally didn't know about it. And my mom was a school administrator, but you see, she was an alcoholic. And so alcoholism kind of soaked up all the parental attention. And it's a funny thing for a lot of us who were neglected like that when we were young. You do learn to be scrappy. You do learn to be resourceful. But I was only 17 and I had just turned. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how the whole thing worked or how you stack it together into a college degree or what to major in. So with the cleaning houses, I managed to buy this really shitty car. It was really bad. It didn't last very long. And I moved to San Francisco and I went to acting school there. I was still 17. But it was the same thing. I did everything the teachers taught. I was in this immersive program for a whole summer, but I didn't know how you became an actor or how you got a job in acting. Because, again, I would just sort of go through the motions that people could lay out in a course, but I didn't have a connection. My vision wasn't connected to a clear outcome in my mind. Do you have that? I now know from doing Crappy Childhood Fairy, a lot of traumatized people have that, where we can see around us what motions people go through, but that part of the vision of connecting to what you really want, we just didn't get a chance to feel it, to articulate it, to structure our lives around getting there. And so a lot of us end up just, not getting there. And we're like, what happened? How did everybody figure out how to make this life? And I'm just still getting sort of bumped around from, bad job to bad relationship to another bad job. And that's how it happens. There's no vision or guidance there. And just every person needs that. This is just a reminder, if you have kids in your life, try to be that person for them. It's really helpful. The people who did show up for me eventually were like saints. I'm really grateful to them. They told me what to do. The pattern of like just going through the, present time motions of what you do, but not knowing what this was all leading to, I just kept doing it. And when I eventually finished college, I didn't know how to get a job in my field. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, honestly. It happened when I went to grad school, again, much later. I went to public policy school. And it was a good program, very hard to get into, very hard to graduate from, a brutal experience, really. But I was like, wait a second, we're being trained to work as government analysts? Like, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I don't want to do that. And so somehow I had just gone through, done what you're supposed to do. I don't know, at the time, that public policy degree sounded like a good idea. And I got to say, it's the one thing in my life experience that so far hasn't ended up being useful for crappy childhood fairy. Yet. We'll see, right? I think if it did anything, it helped me talk in it like an academic. I can participate in those conversations. And I got trained very well how to look at research and go, this is BS. How to crack the code and see if something was like a legitimate study. I got a lot of training in that and in economics, which is useful, but not so much here in what I do now. Everything else I've ever done is useful, including phone soliciting, waiting tables, babysitting, teaching customer service improvement in a giant healthcare chain, and creating medical education. A lot of things that I've done ended up being part of what I needed to know to do this. But I repeated the pattern of just bumping around in basically every relationship I had. If I felt affinity or attraction or a strong emotion with someone who was interested in me, well, then it was on. But was there potential there for a future? Did their goals match up in any way with mine? Or did I know what my goals were? Did I even like the person, or did they like me? Who knows? And, by the time I was asking those questions, because it did matter to me, I was very hurt if I found out somebody wasn't serious about me. I could never see at the time how I had set it up that way. You didn't have to be serious about me. I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't trying to be like that girl who has expectations or anything. I was going with the flow, right? And you can't, relationships are something that are pretty hard to make happen. Or certainly, I have never been successful at making them happen. The relationship was already barreling along the tracks, and no questions could be asked, and eventually hearts would be broken, and then the whole cycle would repeat. So this is the thing when you just go with the flow. You're not connected to your vision. You're not asking questions. You're suppressing your concerns because, I'll speak for myself, because on some level you won't like the answer. And then you'd have to be alone or jobless or with no direction. So I was. And I'd wait to hear what other people wanted. And I loved people with direction. I've always liked people who are very passionate about what they're into. I've always said I could be very interested in any class if the teacher was really into the subject. And that's what I like. And I had the pleasure in school as a kid to have a few teachers like that. And they made such a difference in my life. And I wanted that. I wanted to be around that. I was hoping it would shape me. And I've noticed in crappy childhood fairy work, in the letters I get, it's such a pattern that neglected kids later abandon themselves, later do look for that identity in other people. So it's normal. There's no shame in it. It's just a normal reaction to abnormal stuff that happened to us, but then it lingers and it plays out in relationships. I think there are a few relationships where somebody who's quite lost can pair up with somebody who's got a strong agenda and they can make it work. But I think I'm too strong-willed to like that. So even though I kept aligning myself with people with a strong vision for themselves, I would resent that everything would go in their direction all the time. And I had a really hard time advocating for my own direction because I couldn't see it. So that's what happens. You give up your vision, you get resentful. You give away your will, you give away your vision, you give away your sovereignty over your own life, and you wait for someone else to tie it all together for you. And you know what happens? They don't. They can't. You can't do that for another person unless you absolutely have control over them, like children. And the only reason I don't feel depressed anymore about the years I wasted playing small like that is because it turns out I was learning things that I could use when I busted out one day at the age of 53 or 5 or something with crappy childhood fairy. My personal agency came to life, and finally, right? Many years later, it happened for me. All your experiences can be used in your curriculum too, to finally become your full and real and actualized self, not small. Don't forget that. It's not too late. There's no need, though, to look back and just feel shame and regret. You want to learn your lessons, but beating yourself up is a waste of time. It's the ultimate waste of time because you're doing it right now. And right now you could be using to get your vision together and start taking action. I don't recommend doing it with force. And here's why I think that making things happen, like I will it to happen, can actually rip you off as well, just like giving up. It can be like a fancy dressed up way of playing small. Progress and innovation and rising from the ashes are iterative processes. They're not just like pow, like one move, they're iterative. They happen in steps. And you learn where you're going by taking one step. I mean, who knows where they're going? It's not common anyway to have a clear vision of where you want to be. I met one person who really wanted to be a particular type of lawyer, always worked at it, achieved it, very young and is doing it. And I hope he's really happy. But I didn't have that. I didn't know exactly what. But when you kind of know the direction, you know the thing that animates you, that gives you energy, you listen for the thing where people tell you again and again, when you do that thing, it really lifts me up. It really helps me in some way. These are your clues. Take a step in that direction. Try one thing that fits that direction. I created a startup company once, and I sought advice from a lot of people who actually knew how to create a startup. And I'll tell you what it was. It was this really simple platform that would allow you to put links of videos and PDFs and upload PDFs into it. And you could put images in, and it would array them in an email, and you could send it out. It would take you like 5 minutes, and it would look like a course, and it would track who took it. And I did the whole thing. I pitched it to investors and stuff, and I did get a little money, but not enough. On the one hand, they go, I don't know, you just look like a mom. I don't think they were fair to me. But in a way, it's not that I was a mom. It's that I just wasn't into it. I didn't love this whole project enough to spend 80 hours a day on it. Later, when I started Crappy Childhood Fairy, it was everything to me. It was what I already did for free with half my waking hours, was teaching people my daily practice and learning about trauma. And, I really have always been very strongly motivated and very strongly rewarded, so that doing it for free was always like my thing. I taught my kids, I taught my parents, I taught, everybody, taught my in-laws. Most people didn't want it, but I never stopped. I was just like a machine, like I'm sharing this thing. So later, when I discovered a way to share it with the world, I was in my element. I was able to get out of playing small. But it didn't start out that way. It didn't start out that way at all. So when I had this startup, I learned a concept that has been very helpful to me in everything that I've done. And it's called MVP, Minimum Viable Product. And it means if I had wanted to build Crappy Childhood Fairy and I had known I had had some completely realized vision of what it was going to be today, I would have been back there when I started it in late 2016 or something. And I would have said, okay, I'm going to have to get a membership program and 5 courses and webinars every month and 2 books and, what else? What else do I do? The community on Facebook, that's kind of the biggest thing we have, is that we have this huge group of a couple thousand people who are really into learning this method and supporting each other and friends. You don't build that just, not only couldn't you build it before starting, it's not practical, but I couldn't see it. I didn't know where this was going. I just knew I wanted to teach the daily practice thing. Oh, look, this is on my desk right now. Re-Regulated, the book that summarizes the whole thing. That came out 6 months ago. I got another book coming in 6 months called Connectability. I mean, I was born to be doing what I'm doing. I love my work, so I have a lot of energy for it. Sometimes I get tired. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes people are mean. But the minimum viable product is what I experimented with at first, and I needed something that didn't cost anything, so I started a free blog, and I put up a blog post, and I thought it was pretty good, so I put it on Facebook, and I put, just to my friends. I had just a Facebook account like one does, and especially back then. And so, I don't know, some of my friends followed it. And then I tried to grow it. So I boosted a couple of my blog posts. And my early blog posts, they're very clinical. They read like a brochure. They're like, they do, because I used to write brochures, like for public health. I used to write training and all this stuff. So I was very accustomed to writing in this very clinical style where you never really make any assertions and go, well, sometimes people feel that maybe, So my early blog posts are pretty dry or just weak. And I did these drawings that were terrible. But I did it, like the love and passion to do it was there. And I did it, and people started to follow it a little bit. And after I had done a few posts, I wanted to show people. I would talk about the daily practice, and I was realizing I wasn't really getting any interest. When I just talked about it in a blog post, nobody wanted to do it. So I made a video, and I had a video production company. So I paid my guy to film me sitting at a table teaching how to write the fears and resentments. And if you've ever taken my Healing Childhood PTSD course, there's a whole video where I do that. I teach how to write like that. And it's this really tricky video to shoot because I have to look down and I have to write real stuff. And I later learned, don't really write the stuff, read aloud what you want to pretend you're writing and then just go because it's really boring to go that slow that when somebody's writing in real time what they're doing. A little secret of behind the scenes. It's just squiggly lines to teach that. But I'm so good I've taught it, I have these free calls every 2 weeks for years now that I teach anybody who learns it and wants to come ask questions and do the techniques with me. So I'm really good at teaching how to do it. I can do it and fake any part of it. I can pretend I'm sitting on a chair if I have to, So I made that video, and you can see it. It's on my YouTube channel. It's the very first video. If you search chronologically by date, can you do that? I can, but maybe that's just because I'm the creator. But the very oldest video on there, it's how to write your fears and resentments. And you can see I'm very stiff and nervous, and I'm very formal and still kind of brochure-ish and talking about it, not free with myself at all, like I later learned to be. And I also, when I was first making videos, I was very floppy. I went to Toastmasters and learned to just kind of hold still and say things and don't put so many filler words like and like. And it was really good for me. I also took singing lessons and learned to use my voice better. I get hoarse sometimes when I'm doing this, but not when I'm taking singing lessons. I have a very strong voice. So I took seriously some of the skills that I needed. And I learned by iteration, minimum viable product. I put these blog posts out, and the boring clinical ones, got a few likes. And then I started writing stories about my life, about the time my mom tried to make me go to an amusement park naked when I was 6 years old because she was a hippie and my bathing suit was wet. Stories like that. And boom, all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, that's my experience too. And they were starting to relate to me, or growing up poor, or how into it I was. To learn how to act in a proper manner, I just didn't know. I felt feral when I was a kid. So I started writing about that stuff, and suddenly there was interest. But it was this video where I showed the techniques. I showed it, I was writing blog posts. I didn't have many followers, but when you're first starting a blog, if you get 10 and then maybe 50 followers, you're in business. It's pretty exciting, right? And 50 human beings is 50 human beings. It meant a lot to me. But one day I thought I'm going to make another video, and I went over to YouTube. And because I was a video producer, I didn't normally use YouTube for hosting, but I wanted free. I wanted it to not be in my business account was on Vimeo, and I had hundreds of videos there from my production company. But I just wanted something small and private. The stuff that I was doing wasn't professional. I actually didn't want the clients to think that I made these cruddy videos like I made for my blog, right? I needed those to look slick and professionally shot. But I went over there, and it turns out I had a couple thousand subscribers from just 2 or 3 videos. And I was shocked. I had no idea. Minimum viable product was the blog. And what I learned is, Anna Runkle, your milieu is video. That's where you belong. That's your thing. And I started making more videos and fewer blogs. I still have, 150, 170 blog posts there. They're good. You can go find them on my website. I like them. I used to do drawings for them and everything back when I didn't have, a team of 8 people and a whole thing to run. I miss that. And so then I started focusing on YouTube, and that started going. So minimum viable product. When you stop playing small, I want you to get out of the idea that you have to figure out the entire vision. If I had made all the content for Fairy and then today I unleashed it on the world, it would be so boring, because back then I was trying to get approval from old bosses at, public health jobs who didn't want me being expressive, who didn't want me being a weirdo or silly or laughing or, talking about heinous things that had happened to me. They didn't want that. It was never supposed to be about me. It was fine because that's how you make a living. And I'm going to talk about that in one of the other, get out of playing small videos about how to stop playing small on the job. It can't be about us in this weird way. We take care of ourselves by getting the focus off of ourselves. But when I did Fairy, it was when I brought myself to the table and started being open about some of my most hard memories and the stuff that I felt most ashamed of. Like the worst things I've ever done are now like in my videos and courses, especially in the courses. If you want the dirt, take the courses. But holding back was going to limit how much I could help people. I don't think anybody believed my credibility. Like, I'm not a therapist or doctor. What is my credibility? It's that I've lived it. And when I talk about my hardships or my mistakes, people know, I get it, right? And then if you can see me, just what my energy is now, the shine, you instinctively know there was some sort of, process, some trajectory there. And that's how I got an audience, is they became curious. How did she get from there to there? So I'm really glad I didn't borrow, $300,000 and make a ton of videos and courses that would have read the rack of brochures at the doctor's office about the food pyramid and why you should exercise and a bunch of stuff you would never read, even if they put it in your hands, but they have to have it there, right? That's the kind of thing I used to write. I was boring when I first started Crappy Childhood Fairy. I was very restrained, and then I gradually just gave myself permission to say what I really had to say, to say what I mean, to be honest and open. Now, that's not everybody's path. When you stop playing small, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to let it all hang out. It's a property of this job that I've created for myself that it demands that level of authenticity. But if you think you know everything about me, you don't, my friends. Much of my story is in reserve. It's private because it involves other people. I'm super respectful of other people. I don't tell stories, even with my enemies in them, that would make them, go under the bus. So I became allowed to say what I could say. I was willing to be offensive. I was willing to get hate mail. I get some of that. That was one of the most helpful things. One of my mentors, Brendan Burchard, walked a group of us through this exercise to say, I know I'm going to get hate mail and I'm okay with it. Then as a YouTuber, I learned how to lead with a strong opinion. Now, when I first started, you'll look at my old videos and I would go, hello, I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy. And today I want to talk to you about something very important for healing. It's a small way to start a video. Those first 10 seconds are very crucial and people will just drop off if you don't say something that they go, oh yeah, I want to watch this video. You have to spit it out, girl. Say what this video is about and lead with a strong opinion. So you don't play small at the beginning of a video. You can lead with a strong opinion, then afterward come back and qualify what you just said and say, of course, not everybody will blah, blah, blah. That's how you do a video that people will stay and watch for more than 5 seconds before just scrolling on. One of my mentors, Evan Carmichael, taught me that. And I was like, I can't do that. That's too strong. That's too assertive. That's against the rules. But see, we're in YouTube land, and there are rules here. They do have community guidelines, right? They have that. Also, I'm very against slandering other people. I'm very careful to make it clear I'm not a therapist. This doesn't replace therapy. These are practical suggestions to make your life better if you happen to be a traumatized person. Luckily, many people who are students of mine are therapists and doctors now, a lot, hundreds and thousands of them. And they refer their patients and clients to this stuff. So things are rolling along, it's getting bigger and bigger. Telling the embarrassing things about what trauma symptoms are really like is what worked for me. That's the only thing that interests people, and that's what makes the videos worthwhile. What is it really like? And the most meaningful thing I've ever gotten back from my work is when people say, and I've heard this a lot, maybe you're one of the people who put it in the comments, this is the first time I've ever felt like anybody really got it. I thought I was the only one who felt this way. So they don't want a pastel-colored brochure in clinic speak. The playing small days are gone. And if you want to help people, it's a lot of work. Phoning it in is not going to fly. You can't fake this work. All right, then in the history of playing bigger on YouTube, You can see in about 2022 somewhere, I got a camera with, wait for it, autofocus. And everything before then is all fuzzy, mercifully fuzzy. You know, I'd be like, oh, my skin looks so creamy and smooth. It's like, well, it's out of focus. And now when I make those mashup videos, every Sunday I publish like a 4-video compilation. And they sort of go back and forth between 2024, 2021. And the focus is like, and my hair is like, You can definitely trace the chronology, but those early videos, as fuzzy as they are and as funky as the hair is, and all through the pandemic, the lockdown, I was like just at my desk with a laptop camera. Those videos were good. Like, I'm proud of those videos. The inner power was there for me to be shining and making videos no matter what the production quality was. And I'm really grateful for that. That is what put this channel on the map. That is what got me out of playing small about it. I act like it's all done, but you know what? There's so much, like, it's a continuous process. We'll just see where this channel is going. I have a lot of happy things I'm looking forward to this year and next, but this channel changed my life. When I committed to it all the way, I shut down my video production company. No more clients. And it was just me. And if I was going to like fail, I was going to lose everything. And we couldn't really afford for me not to be making income. By the time that happened, I was married, and my husband worked at a software company until like mid-pandemic. He, like everybody else, he sort of like changed his whole life, and he started working with me. So then like all the pressure was on, like, this is how our family gets by. And I did it. I just made the commitment. We both did. We committed to doing this. We didn't make it happen. Forcing Crappy Childhood Fairy never has the right energy. I feel like some of my videos that I had to make sick, like I had to make videos when I had COVID, and I made videos sometimes when I don't know, my energy was just crushed. I was grieving or whatever. And instead of just being with what I was really feeling in the moment, which probably would have played better, I was like trying to be energetic. And you can see it in videos sometimes. So, you know, now you're going to look at videos all critically, like, does she have energy? And I don't always, but I do right now. And I think you can probably recognize that. You know, when I feel good, when I feel like I give myself a little outline and then I just riff on it, like, I'm good. I'm in my happy place. I learned to take one action at a time. You don't make it happen. Relationships don't happen that way. Careers don't happen that way. You take one action after another. But these actions mean nothing if you don't know what you want. You don't have to know every perfect detail of what you want, but you have to kind of know what you want. And that was what happened. I knew with Crappy Childhood Fairy, I've known since like 1995, you know, very early in knowing my daily practice. I wanted this to be my life. It changed my life so much that I wanted to do this all the time, but it didn't seem like you could ever make it into like a career. So I thought, I'll write a book. I will write a book one day. And every year since then, I thought, oh no, I'm going to write the book this year. And then I didn't. And then I would. Then I didn't. And then last year I did. And 2 years ago I did. And then it came out last year. And another book. It's just like, that's how it works. You take small steps. And I couldn't have written a good book until I had made 1,000 videos about childhood PTSD. And I couldn't have gotten an agent or a publisher if I didn't have like a really strong following. You on YouTube, you make it possible to get a deal like that. That's how it is these days. Publishers want somebody with a following. And then last year, before my book came out, you guys bought 5,000 copies pre-sale. And you know what? That got everybody's attention at Amazon and the publisher. That meant a lot to them. You helped the success of this book. And we're going to do it again this year with Connectability. So get ready. You could be part of this vision in your small way and support me. And I hope that my work is supporting you. But I wanted to show people, my dream was to show people these techniques that had helped me heal and allowed me to stay alive. And I used to, I would have done it for free forever, but really it was taking like 20, 25 hours a week. And I was mom. Moms can't work and do 25 hours of something else. So something had to give, and it did. And it's just been wonderful. And now my kids are big. They're in their 20s. And here we are. So before I met my husband, when I was single and sick and tired of horrible dead-end relationships, same thing. I allowed myself to get clear what I really wanted. So even though I didn't think I could have what I wanted, I wrote it down in great detail. And I wanted to be married to someone that I totally loved and who totally loved me and who loved my kids and was willing to be a loving stepfather to them. not a cagey, ambivalent, or God forbid, abusive stepfather, not that, but even just like the half-measured love wasn't going to be good enough. There were literally 200 things on my list. I didn't think you were allowed to do that. Not all of them were must-haves. Some was like, they can't have a drug problem. They must love my kids, that kind of thing. They can't be involved with somebody else now or ever. They got to be my monogamous man. Then there were a lot of things that were nice to haves, and they were negotiable, but I knew what they were. I knew what I liked. I knew what I wanted. And it's funny. This is not magical thinking. You don't make it happen by writing it down. You just somehow teach yourself to stop settling for something that is something other than what you want. Like, it's very obvious then, if somebody were to have come along and been like, hi, I'm really attractive to you, but I just got really drunk on the first date. Well, I've already written down, like, I must not have that. That won't work for me. So it never happened again. And in fact, once I wrote it down, I only dated one person, and it's him, my husband. Very long courtship. Some of you have heard the story. Took 5 years before we got married. And now we've been married 11 and a half years or something. So it's been a really good journey, and I'm so glad I took my time with it. I'm so glad I got clear what it needed to be, and I did not settle for less. There's these like videos where you're supposed to hate this woman in little TikTok videos where she's like, I have all these requirements for men, and everybody, dumps on her like, well, why is she so special? It's nothing like that. Why would I want to marry somebody who did not love my kids, who resented them? I'll tell you, that's what happened to me when I was a kid. I wasn't going to do that to them. So I got clear, and I needed to get clear, and my clarity empowered the actions. And I took solid actions every day to change my life and start to become a person who would meet a guy like that and who could give back love on that level. So that clarity of the vision is what I teach in my dating course for people with childhood PTSD. Actually, all my courses start out with that. What do you want? Traumatized people have a hard time stating it. So we spend a whole week on it, actually. We get clear what it is each person wants. You don't have to force it. You just hold it in your mind and take one action. When you take one step towards that vision, that vague vision that you have, a little fog is out of the way and you see the next step. You see a little more about your vision. You're like, oh, wait, it's not right here. It's over here. You take one step and one step and one step. And that is how you get there. You don't have to force it, but you don't go with the flow. Going for the flow is for certain situations, but it's not for your whole life. Not if you are living in trauma-driven behaviors and beliefs and getting stuck. If you want it to change, it's time to see what you want and begin taking action. So I've got more videos coming up all about ways that we play small. I'm going to teach you how to do it. I'm going to tell you how I learned it. They're coming up in the coming days. What I want you to do, I'm going to ask you again at the end of this video, is please subscribe. We're getting towards 1 million now, and this is no time to give up. Let's get this channel to 1 million. Why? I don't know. I want to get that gold plaque, and when I get it, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to thank you. It's coming. It could come quite quickly if we get you on board right now. So I want to leave you with something that will be helpful, though, until the next video comes out. So I've set aside this. You can click on it right here, and I will see you very soon.